we go to our next guest. His name is Councillor Brendan Chilton. He is a Labour councillor and former chair of Labour Leave. Hello, Brendan. How are you?
Good afternoon, my friend. Very nice to be with you.
Well, lovely to be with you. Now, Brendan, you may have heard my rant on air saying that, you know, sort of attacking, as I do sometimes, the left jokingly, although some people don't take it as a joke, the chai latte slurping, avocado on sourdough toast with almond butter brigade, as I once said in the House of Commons. You're not one of those, are you, Brendan? I think you're pretty sound.
Oh, I'm a turmeric latte man. No, joking. My personal trainer wishes I was an avocado man. Unfortunately, I fail really well on all of that.
No, well done. Don't worry, I failed too, Brendan, so we could both join in that one together. Look, Brendan, obviously big news regarding Labour in particular with this deputy leadership contest now formally underway. A lot of controversy around the fact that the National Executive Committee said that the 80 signatures, a lot indeed. I can tell you what, that is going to be hard work, especially when some MPs, I will shock horror, sign multiple bits of paper so they can be everyone's friend. Those duplicitous so-and-so always get found out, just so you know, for those Labour MPs thinking of doing such a trick. We've got Louise Haigh in the New Statesman today, sort of what I would say, certainly launching a pitch for that position. We've had Emily Thornberry on the some of the media around yesterday, where she certainly seemed to be dipping her toe into that water, and Dr. Rosina Ali Khan is being rumoured to be interested too. I mean, first of all, is there, Brendan, a particular MP you would like to see run? Is there a favourite of yours that you would hope would put themselves in a position, or are you happy with the rules? Does it feel like a bit of a stitch-up, or do you think Keir Starmer's right to get this over and done with quickly as possible to avoid any internal sideshow that they maybe witnessed with the Conservatives in the last Parliament?
So I think a speedy deputy leadership election is needed. We should not be looking inwards as a party. We should be focusing on delivering our manifesto and trying to get our economy growing. And if we're sidetracked by a long deputy leadership contest, talking to ourselves is not what we need to be doing right now. We need to be listening to voters, as the polls are showing us. In terms of my personal preference for candidates, obviously there'll be a few more names coming out over the next few days. I gather the timetable starts early next week, actually, with the parliamentary hustings, and then local parties can nominate thereafter. I actually think Shabana Mahmood would be a great candidate for deputy leader of the party. She is exactly the sort of Home Secretary I want to see, and I think having that tough stance on immigration that I think we will see coming from her over the next few weeks as she gets into the role would be perfect for the role of the deputy leader. The job of the deputy leader is to be a bridge between the party and the country and the leadership, and if she were to put her hat in the ring, I'd certainly vote for her.
Well, I think she has, unfortunately for you, Brendan, already ruled out in an interview that she's done today, yet to be broadcast, but has ruled out. But I like the fact that you're saying that about Shabana Mahmood. I've heard this...
I take all that back. I take it all back.
No, don't worry. I think it's good and it's useful to know, because look, I've heard about Shabana being part of what's called Blue Labour. Now, I must confess, I never heard of Blue Labour until after the last general election. I'd heard of New Labour and assumed that was the same thing, but it seems to be slightly different. Blue Labour being much more of the socially conservative-sided, what I would call old Labour, in fact. You look at places like Stoke-on-Trent, where Labour dominated for decades upon decades. It was being traditionally socially conservative, whilst also having a more interventionist economic model to generate growth and to stimulate local economies. I would actually say that this goes back to the Clement Attlee days, where he was all about building social housing, but at the same time, you had to maintain your gardens, look after your property, and if you didn't, out you were gone. I think that's what I would call common sense conservatism. I'd like to also see that too, where you can see that crossover. But indeed, I think it's an electoral winning strategy for certainly the Labour Party. Shabana obviously has come in now as Home Secretary. You say there that you've got much hope for her. I don't know much about her, but is there a fear that she's going to talk tough but under-deliver? Because people like me would say her problem is her boss, Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, certainly when she was Justice Secretary, you will recall there was the advice issued by, I think it was the court service or the legal service, that basically said sentences should be lighter for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, ethnic minority communities, and people that would be regarded as possibly having suffered oppression. Now, in her role as Justice Secretary, she said this was a load of nonsense and ordered a review to it, and that's now been, or is in the process of being, overturned. She's also said from day one, when she became Home Secretary just a few days ago, that her #1 priority is stopping the boats. I gather she's already had bilateral discussions with a number of countries and is saying unless they accept return agreements. We will restrict visas for people coming from those countries. Obviously, you know, she's only been in the job a few days, but I've got great hope for her. She does come from that blue Labour tradition, which is a sort of no-nonsense, old-fashioned Labour. Of course, as part of the cabinet, there's collective responsibility and you've got to work as a team. But I think Keir Starmer has put Shabana in that position because he knows she's a tough cookie and will do what's necessary to stop the boats crossing the channel. And also underneath her, the appointment of Mike Tapp, who's the MP for Dover, literally on the front line of tackling the small boats crisis. He will make Nigel Farage look like a Zara Sultana when it comes to tackling the boats. He is extremely tough on this issue, and I think I know people want answers and solutions right now. Give them a few weeks and months, and I think we will see a dramatic turnaround in the approach to small boats under their leadership in the Home Office.
Obviously, there's a lot of people, and Sir Keir Starmer clearly has made it clear to Shabana Mahmood that she must succeed in order to tackling the boats, stopping the boats, so that she could take on, or Labour can take on, Nigel Farage. Do you accept that if Shabana Mahmood is unable to achieve that, that basically the door to 10 Downing Street is going to see Nigel Farage standing in front of it after the next general election?
Well, let's be straight up about this. You know, Labour in the last election, we didn't say, oh, we're going to try and stop the boats, but it might be difficult. The line in our manifesto, and by repeated spokespersons from the party, was that we're going to smash the gangs and stop the boats. And that is precisely what we're going to have to do. Now, of course, the small boats crossings have continued. Labour have implemented a number of measures that will try and get those numbers down. We have seen people returned. We have seen more people put into asylum claims and border force. But we're not at that stage yet where the gangs have been smashed and the boats have been stopped. And if we don't stop it, that is essentially giving Nigel Farage a huge pot of fuel to throw on the fire that will accelerate Reform's chances of winning the next general election. We can stop the boats. We've got the apparatus within the state to do it. We have the resources to do it. We just need to now get on and do it. And I'm very hopeful that that is what will happen under Shabana and Mike Tapp. We're never going to stop all crossings, but we need to get them down into the very, very low figures. You know, the English coastline's huge. I live down here on the south coast. It is impossible to monitor every little bay and cove, but we can monitor the majority of it and stop these boats crossing the channel.
And out of interest, obviously, again, you're saying that, you know, punchy stuff, and I like to see it, actually. It's nice to see a Labour person. You're almost too sound to be in Labour, in my opinion, Brendan. You know, you should come to the Conservative Party. You sound more right-wing than most of those colleagues I used to work with who sit on the Conservative back benches.
Old Labour.
Old Labour. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd swap you for Simon Horner, Alicia Kearns any day of the week, personally. So anyhow, you've obviously sounded, you're being very sound, as I say, on this issue. The fear, again, though, is, you know, ECHR, for example, where apparently it's being looked at, the Article 8 in particular, which is used when it comes to stopping deportations of both foreign national offenders and illegal migrants, as well as allowing them the right to remain indefinitely. Isn't the truth, though, that Shabana's going to actually just need to, as people like me would say, leave the ECHR? And Sir Keir Starmer's already pulled the rug from under her feet by saying, under his watch, that will never happen, which is why I keep saying that Shabana may say all the right things. And look, I'm one of those, as I say, don't know her, so I'll wait to see if proof is in the pudding. But she is going to be hindered massively by a human rights lawyer-loving boss who's never going to allow her to go as far as she needs to.
So on human rights, I think just the first thing to say is I like human rights. I like having rights that protect us and protect you. What I think needs to be done first is we need to talk to our colleagues in Europe about amending that particular section, because right now it's not just not working for Britain, it's not working for other signatories to the ECHR as well. And so if we can get a bilateral arrangement or a European-wide arrangement where we get this amended and changed, that is what I would do first. If that can't be achieved, I would leave it. And I think that's what would have to happen if we can't get that renegotiated. Now, Keir Starmer, whatever we think he's done here at home, abroad, I think it is fair to say the UK is more respected on the world stage, is more listened to. We've got those trade deals, etc. He should try and do that. And I think there have been some signals from the government, particularly in recent weeks and months, that that is something they will look at trying to do, to negotiate those arrangements in the ECHR. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that can be done, but that should certainly be a priority.
And do you think if you take away immigration from reform, that's by meaning, as you say, you get those small boats crossings literally down to, the hundreds again at most, as you say, it's impossible for any government to promise all boats being stopped indefinitely. Not even Nigel Farage would want to make that promise, I don't think. Do you believe that that will be the downfall of reform? Are they, in your opinion, a single-issue party, or do you think that reform pose danger as well on the economy, where Labour is facing potentially a up to £50 billion black hole if certain economic think tanks are to be believed, and obviously where we've seen things like the Workers' Rights Bill scare a lot of business, and of course that national insurance increase for employers, that £25 billion tax raid on employers that has meant that we've seen unemployment rise? Do you think that that's also an issue that Labour need to double down on as much as immigration?
Well, I am a Blairite, so I believe in a low-tax state but a progressive state. But if you look at Reform's economic policies, and this is somewhere where both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, I think, have got an open goal, their numbers don't stack up. The sheer cost of their deportation plans, some people say it's 30 million, others say it's 10. They're announcing a huge amount of welfare cuts in the next few weeks. They're also promising tax cuts, but no other big public spending, so they're going to have to borrow more. They've made some small spending items in terms of interest payments on to private banks, but in local government they came in saying they were going to come in and sweep the board and make huge millions of pounds of savings. When they've got in there and looked at the books that were already in the public domain, there's not a lot of savings that they can make without cutting raw core services. I think actually on tax, they've said in many, not on tax, on public ownership, they've indicated in some areas that they would bring significant portions of industry into public ownership, up to 50% in some cases. I don't think a lot of those Tory voters that went over to reform went over for that sort of policy. So actually, if both the Labour Party and the Tory Party get their act together on the economy and start bringing growth to the economy by reducing taxation on business, by actually slimming down some areas of the NHS, all those backroom managers and things like this, also adopting investment zones, all manner of things we can go into to grow the economy. If they do that, I think Reform are on a bit of a sticky wicket because their own numbers do not add up. And a lot of commentators and a lot of independent analysis has shown that.
Brendan, just so you know, for anyone in Labour HQ who might be tuning in, if they want to be electable, if they want to win back trust in the British public, I hope to God they're sensible enough to put you out on the television more and broadcast round, because I think a lot of our listeners will agree with what you say. My problem for you, my friend, is that I think there's very few of you in the Labour Party, and I know that because there's very few in the Conservative Party who have the sound enough views like you on a broad range of things too. So I wish you all the very best. May I ask which part of the South Coast are you a councillor for, sorry?
I live in Ashford in Kent. We're about 20 minutes from the coast. So this small boats thing, we've known about it down here for years, long before Nigel Farage went out on his fishing boat and had a look. It's been going on for decades. Thank you very much for having me on your show today. It's been great fun. No,
it has been great fun. I would love listeners to text in. Would you vote for Brendan? Would Brendan give you hope in the Labour Party? That's Councillor Brendan Chilton, Labour councillor and former chair of Labour Leave. I think a lot of common sense has spoken there. My God, imagine if they had more of him in the Labour Party. They might actually be able to do the job of governing the country.